So I want to bring up something that you said in the book that really really struck me a lot. When you left the Hold Steady, I was really bummed out, and I think I can speak for pretty much every fan. I mean, your keyboards and your vocal harmonies and the dynamic vocally between you and Craig was very missed for that period of time. And you mentioned it briefly in the book. And the analogy you gave, I really loved. I'm going to paraphrase the analogy, but you basically said, when you hop a train, and it might be a great train, but nonetheless, when you hop a train, if it's not going to the destination you need to get to, eventually you got to hop off. And that's scary because there's a good chance you're going to fall. There's a good chance you're going to bruise your arm. There's a good chance you're going to tumble a little bit and you might go backwards a little bit. But staying on the train's not quite an option. That's a beautiful analogy that one can just kind of carry in their lives. Could you embellish on that a little bit?
No, I think that's it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words.
Well,
and, now I'm playing with them again.
Right. I was going to ask. So what is, just to totally clarify the current status? Are you like back, or are you just like touring back, or what's kind of the situation there? Because I know, like, when people saw you in the pictures for some upcoming live shows, a lot of people were really happy.
I'm in the band.
Great.
Band. Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. I mean, I for one am very, very thrilled you're back.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw you guys, it was 2006, and it was right when Boys and Girls came out, so it was a phenomenal show. And I remember you had a bottle of wine next to you on stage that just became less and less as the show went on, man. It was phenomenal.
That's still how it goes.
That's still your thing?
Yeah.
So what kind of, like, going backwards a little bit, you are considered one of punk rock's greatest accordion players. So what's kind of the anatomy of your background? You're from New Hampshire, correct?
I'm from New Hampshire, yeah, small town New Hampshire. I will say that the competition for that title may not be, well, as stringent as some of the other positions.
Sure. I mean, and you play guitar, you play banjo, you're a multi-instrumentalist, but it seems like your main wheelhouse is keyboards and accordion. Is that how you started in music? And then when did you get into punk rock? And what kind of made you stay that certain path? Because I know for me, when I was 12 and I got into punk rock, I was like, nothing else matters except electric guitar and power chords now, which of course I was very short-sighted and wrong. But, speak a little bit to your experience.
Yeah, so I grew up in a very small town in rural New Hampshire, in a sort of cultural isolation. We didn't have, my folks were sort of back to nature artists in the 70s. We didn't have, for many years, running water or plumbing or certainly not television or anything like that. And just, in the pre-internet age, in terms of music fandom and so on, you just didn't have access, even after we came out of that sort of technological isolation. I didn't have access to what was cool other than, Rolling Stone and Spin, essentially, and the one record store in the town about half an hour away. So it wasn't really until I got to college that, and I had a roommate who was from New Jersey and played in punk bands and started taking me to all ages shows at the Wetlands. And, in
Where
New York,
was college?
NYU.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that was sort of like, oh, there's this whole, you start to learn what.
Were you playing music at that point, or did you start playing music in college?
So I was already playing music. I started playing violin when I was 5 or 6, and piano a little after that, and French horn in elementary school and junior high band, and I started playing guitar when I was turned 15, as you do, and mandolin and accordion a little after that. And I was going to I was in music school at NYU as a music major. I was a classical composition and jazz piano. Not with the intention of being either composer or a jazz pianist, but just sort of I figured that was the best way to get the toolkit that I could then go out and do, all kinds of things with. Mm-hmm. I just would join bands. I would audition for everything in the Back of the Village Voice. I played all kinds of like I played guitar in an R&B covers band. I auditioned for on and on. But eventually, I only mentioned my freshman year roommate because I ended up joining this band, World Inferno Friendship Society, which was a punk band with roots in Jersey. So that was a familiar world. And that was the first band that I was in that people really cared about. And so that became the jumping off point for everything else. I guess my point being that since I came to punk rock as more of a late convert, I didn't burn out on it as some people do. I think if they associate it with their teenage years as something that they want to move past. For me, it's something I associate with my early 20s and a lot of excitement and a scene that I felt a lot of attachment to and a lot of loyalty to and still do, I would say.
Yeah. See, I just flat out never grew up. Like that was like I just still haven't. Like I still like, yeah, no, that all that stuff's still important. Well, so what were some of the first bands you got into then, coming at it like later in college?
Well, I mean, so I was, I guess it was just like Martin was taking me to these shows. So it'd be like, I don't know, like Mr. T Experience and and then it was like, there was ska world was happening then too. So it was like Mephistopheles and the Slackers and things like that. And, I just expanded from there.
Mm-hmm. So
it's never been for me as much about like punk as a style of music, Punk at a certain point became a genre signifier. And for me, especially since my sort of calling card was World Inferno, which is in many ways an unclassifiable band and not a traditional punk band as we were as we were reminded at one point when we were trying to see if I'm about to go on a tangent. Let me finish my first thought, which is that is that for me it was always about the ethos and the people, and that's so for me, we ran this group called Antisocial Music, which was a chamber music collective, composer performer collective. But as far as we were concerned, that was also a punk band. We were putting on shows in the same places that the guitar bands were playing, and so I could easily associate like my love of Moondog and Charles Ives with the same sort of sensibility.
Well, I think in many ways you guys were ahead of your time then, because I mean today, it is sort of more of just this very, very wide umbrella, and it is more an ethos. It is more a state of mind. And because of the internet, I mean, you have access to infinite subgenres, and they're all, it seems like at least, and I'm basing this off of, conversations I've had with the, younger generation coming up now that are 19 and 20 now. It seems like they're all kind of welcome to sort of do their thing. And there's different pockets that appeal to different people, but it's all under the same, still kind of that same touring ethos that, that you and I came up with. More
well,
you than me.
I think that's back to basics, right? Because if you hear people from the 70s talk about it, that's also the refrain, is that it was a state of mind, not a style.
It's true.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you wanna know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you wanna know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it